It's Friday, June 3rd, 2022, and this is the Washington Times front page. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. President Biden made an emotional appeal to the nation for ambitious new gun laws, including a ban on military-style rifles, as lawmakers wrangle over how to prevent more bloodshed. In a primetime address, Harris Alec, Kerry Pickett, and Mika Solner report the president prodded Congress that it's time to act and repeatedly declared enough about the slaughters in schools and other mass shootings that have become all too routine in this country.
After Columbine, after Sandy Hook, after Charleston, after Orlando, after Las Vegas, after Parkland, nothing has been done. This time that can't be true. This time we must actually do something.
Biden also urged lawmakers to expand background checks for gun purchases, change liability laws to allow gun manufacturers to be sued for shootings, and make gun owners liable for not keeping their firearms locked up. The Summit of the Americas is the only formal gathering of the leaders of the countries of North, South, and Central America and the Caribbean. Guy Taylor reports the event next week in Los Angeles will be the first time the United States has hosted it since the first one in 1994. But what was supposed to be a muted celebration of hemispheric ties and cooperation has faced an unexpectedly rocky buildup. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador said his country would send a delegation, but he wouldn't personally attend if countries like Cuba and Venezuela were blocked from sending representatives. With leftist political movements on the rise in the region, the list of no-shows may grow. The leaders of Bolivia, Antigua and Barbuda, and Guatemala have reportedly said they may not attend, and leftist governments in Chile and Argentina have been critical of the United States' vetting of invitations. You can read all of these stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page. You can also find this and our entire roster of Washington Times podcasts at WashingtonTimes.com/podcasts. Republicans are deploying a legion of poll workers nationwide this year, a new strategy that could be used to influence election outcomes. Dave Boyer reports the Republican National Committee said it's spending millions of dollars on the operation. It will include 16 state election integrity directors, 26 in-state lawyers, and more than 10,000 poll workers and poll watchers in battleground states. RNC officials say the operation is to ensure that states and municipalities follow rules on voter ID and other election laws. Democratic National Committee spokeswoman Amar Moussa said on Twitter that the RNC is training poll workers on how to challenge and throw votes out. Speaking of elections, in San Francisco, voters are deciding whether or not to recall controversial district attorney Chesa Boudin. Valerie Richardson reports the recall, known as Proposition H, comes only 2.5 years into Boudin's term for what critics say is an approach that's soft on crime. Crime has risen by 9.8% in the city year over year, according to the San Francisco Police Department dashboard. A previous poll by EMC Research for recall organizers showed the measure leading among voters, 68% to 32%. And finally, Susan Ferricchio analyzes recent attention-grabbing moves by politicians, including Texas Democratic gubernatorial candidate Beto O'Rourke's interruption of a press conference following the school shooting in Uvalde. She says Democrats and Republicans are increasingly skipping the filter of mainstream media and creating their own storylines that draw rants from their critics, raves from their political bases, and lots of attention they otherwise might not get. Find all of today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page or on the Washington Times app, and find us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Washington Times in your favorite podcast app. You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram at Wash Times for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. For the Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo.